Alright, so for today's shot, or sequence I should say, I'm going to be shooting it from the Meddock photo tube. And the cool thing about shooting from the tube, it's not a new idea by any means. Wakeboarding's been shooting from the tube for a long time. For a new trick or something of that nature, what's cool about the tube is you really get to see every single frame, and the focus is entirely on the rider and the move more than it is the background and how sexy the photo looks. So today we got some nice blue sky, some white puffy clouds, and that's going to be our background, but the emphasis is going to be on the rider, and you're really going to be able to dissect and see frame by frame exactly where the handle positioning is, how his head turns, the pop of the wake, the landing, and everything like that. So that's what we're going for today, especially with a trick like this where it's one of the first times landing it for a camera, for a still camera. So hopefully the wakeboard history gods will be with us, and Rusty's going to stick the first toe side 1080 shot from the Meddock photo tube.
For tricks like this going down, there's usually quite a few cameras out. We had Sean Kilgus in one boat and then another filmer on the Sea-Doo.
What's up, you guys? It's Rusty Malinoski out here in Clermont. Got myself a wake-to-wake switch toe side 1080 yesterday, and had plans to shoot with Joe, and thought it'd be pretty cool to try to sequence one with him in the tube. So all goes well, we'll get a really cool sequence of a wake-to-wake 10 here.
So we were out at Danny Harp's place, and we started riding right out front where there was a lot of wind coming across the lake, and he lives on one of the biggest lakes in Clermont. So we started riding up the shoreline going directly into the sun, which is what I preferred. By the time we got to the end of this one little strip, the boat finally got up to plane. We had to turn left, and now all of a sudden we got side light. So I started to get nervous. You know, if he landed the trick right then, if I had the choice, I would have rather been driving the boat straight to the sun. But of course now we're on the side, so I started to get a little uneasy after a while. We tried a couple tricks back and forth. He was sticking nines perfect like crazy every time. By the time we outrun this first little stretch of water, we turned the boat back around, lengthened my tube out, so then I was shooting behind him. I didn't really want to shoot from that angle because the whole purpose of him riding away from this trick was to get those last couple frames. And that angle from behind, as soon as he lands, a lot of the water comes toward the camera, and his body will be hidden behind the splash.
This is a sequence of the 900 from the behind angle. If it was the 1080 and he did land the trick, you can tell in this very last frame, we both would have been a little bit frustrated because he gets completely covered up by the splash coming toward the camera.
We ended up driving around nearly the entire lake before we decided to pack it up and move over one lake, drive through the canal, and hope that the conditions over there were a little bit better. So by the time we get over to this other lake, I had ridden in the tube the entire time. And rather than get in the boat, Rusty, sat there behind the boat and threw the chop and got banged up, and just doing that by itself is pretty winding. So by the time we got over to this other lake, before I saw what the conditions were like, I didn't really think it was going to go down. I didn't think we were going to get it that day. I wasn't too optimistic, but once we got over to this other spot, Rusty started to get all amped up. The only problem I had with it was I was shooting from the behind angle so that the sun was in the right place, and again, it wasn't the place that I wanted to be. Once the boat got up to speed, we waited to the very last second where the water was the most calm toward the end of the stretch. I was shooting from the behind angle, Rusty cut out, did a perfect 9. That looked great, but as I feared from what I mentioned before, the very last couple frames there was too much water, so if it was a 10, I don't know that you could really show that he landed and rode away. So the good part about it was it took us to the other end of the lake where I could switch the tube length, get back in front of him, and now shoot the front angle. Now we're in the perfect spot. There's no wind, the conditions are right, the light, the little side angle, but at that point I didn't care. Once the boat was lined up in the right direction, the rope was tight, Rusty's like, "Joe, I think this is it. I think I'm going to get it here." And I kind of felt the same. The conditions were just perfect. He just stuck a perfect 9 just before that. And he had a look of determination on his face.
So here it is. Starts out a little bit backlit and finishes up with the proper exposure. But nonetheless, it was pretty impressive, and the first ever switch toe side wake to wake 1080 presented by Rusted Malinoski.
What happened, Russ?
Did what we set out to do. Got wake to wake switch toe side 10. Second try.
How many of those have you seen in this world?
I've seen one online, Steel Lafferty, and then seen one yesterday and seen one today.
Ow!
I got them. I'm gonna have them though. I'm gonna have them consistent here.